Welcome, everybody, to the Christmas OneDoor Studios update. We had to give a shout out to all of our investors and fans before the holidays because raise your hand if you know that the holidays is a very slow time for the film industry. John knows that well. You try to get anybody to do anything over the holidays, it's like, oh, we'll get back to you in mid-January. So,
True.
before before most of the film industry shut down for the year, we wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on what's going on the last few weeks and what we're going to be working on the beginning of next year at Wonder Studios. So, Paul and Dan unfortunately can't be here on the call today, but Dan and Paul have been gallivanting around in Texas together for quite a few days. Um, on the MyStream front, because One Studios also has MyStream, and a lot of you are on this call or on this recording are MyStream investors. So, Paul, can you give us a little update what's been going on with this trip in Texas?
So actually, we had we've done three trips to Texas, and I don't know what it is about Texas, um, but Texas really likes my stream,
Mhm.
and we love Texas because of that. I'm from California, Dan's from Michigan, and we keep meeting up in Texas. So one of our main advisors, Luke Pent, is based in Dallas, Texas, and he set up on our last gallivanting. Luke set up a pitch meeting for us, and we had a full house. It was in his conference room at his office. Luke runs an oil and gas fund called Jetstream Capital. Anybody interested in oil and gas, call me and I'll connect you with Luke.
I need a gallon.
You know what's freaky is you go to Dallas, Houston, and gas is $2.50.
Oh my gosh. Like we're in California, it's like
It's
460 here. Yeah.
$5 where I
Yeah.
am.
Let me interrupt you real quick. The purpose of this trip is because up until recently, the majority of the funds that have been building the MyStream platform have been coming from Blackwave Studio, which is Dan Cobb's company, and a lot of the updates you've seen and the platform has been funded by him. So we were actually looking for further investor funds and receiving those commitments. Just want to give a little background of why we're there.
Yeah, we're actually in the middle of what we call a safe note. It's a $2 million raise. And in fact, if anybody's interested in investing in MyStream directly, you can contact us for that. But it's going really well. Um, we had that meeting with Luke in his um, conference room. As I say, it was packed house. We had a subsequent meeting the next day with some of those potential investors. And then we went to Houston, and Ryan Knight, who's one of our main investors, he's been with us since before Dan and I were here. He hosted us, and we had a great meeting up there. And both Dallas and Houston said, "Can you come back?" So we came back again this week. So this is now Friday, and we just got back from
So it
Texas again.
so it not to interrupt you, but so is investors or potential investors in MyStream saying, "Hey, come on back to Texas. I want to introduce you to more of my investor buddies because they want to be involved in this project too, potentially."
Yes, they're introducing us to more people. And as I say, it's going really well. And this funding is going to help us get to what we call our MVP, minimum viable product, or as one of the investors said, minimum valuable product. And that'll be MyStream. For some of you who've already been banging around in MyStream as an alpha user, um, the next version of MyStream, that MVP version, will really get you excited because there will finally be a lot less clunky, right? Technology is always a little clunky when it starts. And more importantly, we're hoping to get off of just the PC onto the TV or onto a mobile device where most people are used to watching their content as opposed to just on a computer.
Yeah. Yeah, so MyStream is cooking. It's been making steady progress, and now with some funding from investors, it'll go even quicker. Wanted to also kind of give you a little update on what's happening on the Wonder Studios Calculated and other film projects front. We're still in negotiations with this uh, person who can't be named producer who is interested in this project. We've also been, along with that producer, um, calling up and kind of testing the waters with a few other producers who are they're all kind of friends. They all know each other, kind of getting a feel for how they feel calculated should move forward and who we should be approaching for production partners and stuff like that. So it's not stagnant. It's still moving. It's never fast enough, honestly. But nonetheless, it still is moving. And t in Paul and Dan's trip to Texas, they visited a studio there. So I'm sure you guys all know The Mandalorian. Mandalorian was filmed on something called a volume. It's 1,344 LED panels that are on the walls and on the ceiling. So all those scenes that you've seen, like in the desert, they're not in the desert. They're in the studio, and it's Unreal Engine video game software creating the backgrounds. And so in Texas, they visited a studio that actually had a slightly bigger studio than where The Mandalorian was filmed, and the LEDs are actually higher quality than the one The Mandalorian was filmed on. And this studio has offered it to us to use um, to work on some of our projects. And so we thought, well, let's pull out Curdy. I don't know if some of you are interested or know about. Um, Sorry, what's the Princess and the Goblin and the Princess and Curdy, a couple of the books we are planning on turning into motion pictures. And so our thoughts are, well, if we could take this studio and potentially create some scenes or a pilot to see what is possible in-house with this technology. A few of our teammates have delved heavily into Unreal Engine and are kind of experts in that. So we want to see what's possible with emerging technology and that's being offered to us. So if any of you guys have some interest in Curdy, we'd like to hear from you. I want you to email Thomas. Can I email you? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, Thomas at OneDoorStudios.com, right?
Yeah, and I was even going to say, if you're interested in what Paul was talking about with the safe note and the money we're raising on MyStream, it's Thomas at MyStream.com. And if you're interested in One Door Studios and movie stuff, it's Thomas at OneDoorStudios.com. So either way, it's Thomas on both sides. And yeah, I'm happy to help answer any questions and steer you guys in the right direction.
Yeah. John,
Yeah,
I'm
just a
sorry, go
quick
ahead.
comment on that studio. It's mind blowing, the one you're talking about, and it was actually in Dallas, Texas. So some friends of ours out there are trying to make Dallas a new hub for film production. They're working with the state of Texas to get better tax incentives in Texas. New Mexico, Louisiana, some other states have really good tax incentives for filmmakers and producers. So they're trying to improve that in Texas. But you go into this, they call it a volume because it's like you're going into a fully immersive experience. A little bit like the Dome in Vegas, if you've heard about that. But they're shooting inside these environments. And what's so cool about it is you can change the setting just by literally, flick a button and it goes from the desert to the mountains to a nightclub to wherever. And that used to take unbelievably more time and money to change settings with your actors and your
Yeah.
lighting and everything. And now this new technology makes it so much easier.
It's so advanced that it tracks camera position so that when the camera moves from left, like if you're filming an actual rock, for example, camera moves from left to right, the rock kind of moves past in a parallel axis you can see around the other side. Well, this technology, because it's created in video game software, when the camera moves, the LED background shifts as though you're in real space. That's why when you watch The Mandalorian and they're walking through the desert, the rocks are passing by. It's because it's actually LED screens that are creating a three-dimensional environment. So pretty sweet tech. Um, John, I wanted to ask you, do you have one of these sweatshirts, one of these calculated sweatshirts?
No,
What? How can you
I'd
not have
love
a?
to.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell John where to find one, which is in case any of you guys would like to have one too. If you
I
go to
have a
WeGo
t-shirt.
One, a t-shirt, yeah, okay. You go to WeGo One, sorry, WeGo dot one. On the top there, it says store. And you can peruse through. We're letting everybody know because we don't talk about it ever. We have tons of products, tons of calculated Wonder Studios products, excuse me, that you can get for yourselves and your loved ones. And they're pretty reasonable prices too. Just letting you know. That was not a sales pitch. Just sometimes it was a, hey, where'd you get that thing you're wearing? That's where I got it from. So, John, you got anything to share with our investors today? Because I left you out of this conversation thus far.
I have. I almost jumped in a couple of times, but I didn't. But yeah, the volume stages are amazing, and my stream is definitely has lots of movement, which is exciting on all fronts. I've been working a little bit in the VC front, venture capital companies, and those guys are hopping. We have now multiple companies that are interested in moving in. And thanks again to Dan and Paul on that front, that we have our technology far enough along, things advanced enough that we can have these more sophisticated conversations and actually show them something which makes them kind of leap out of their chairs. So it's an exciting proposition, and that's why that's why we're getting that
Yeah.
response everywhere. It's Christmas time and New Year's, so there are big pictures coming out. Pay attention. These are films big enough that you might want to go to the theater, not just wait for them to come to your living room. But it's interesting. Everyone does the end of year reviews. And if you're interested in that, you can go on to the variety.com and look at their reviews. They're probably the best source of that stuff. And one thing important to calculate is that they're looking at all the films of 24 and who actually earned the most money and who the audience were and all of that. And it's just calculated all the way. All the evidence is that this property is just more valuable than it's ever been. And to be in the position we are with it is pretty darn exciting.
Yeah.
So
Calculated will be released at the right time.
it will.
Yep.
Yeah, for
No.
sure.
Yeah, and
Thanks.
John
Thanks.
sent
Yep.
out an email to us not too long ago, um, basically an article showing research and how family friendly and the kind of movies that we're producing, whether it's calculated or we mentioned Curdy or we've also mentioned Messiah, which some of you might know about. Those are the types of movies that are really holding up the entire film industry at the moment. They're the movies that are making the most money compared to their budgets. And the R-rated and PG-13 movies and stuff aren't moving the needle as much. And so we felt really good about that when we saw it, and we feel really good about the future of our projects, including Calculated, because it just fits right into that genre of the movies that are doing really, really well and that audiences want to see the most right now. So
Yep.
Disney
That's
is the
great.
#1 studio, have had higher earnings at the theaters than any other studio.
Sorry, what
For
studio, John? I didn't hear you.
Disney.
Oh, Disney. Gotcha.
It's interesting to look at their profile as well, and they take a step into that on Variety too. They bought Fox not that long ago, and so they picked up all of their projects that were in development and in production and so forth, and they had some of those released this year, big films. Um, but the films that grossed the highest were the pictures that were more like Thomas was saying, more of those big audience pictures that are family friendly. So it's a beautiful
It's
thing.
it's it's pretty simple math, right? If you go to a movie with your wife or your buddy, that's 2 tickets. You go with your whole family, that's five, six, 7 tickets, however many kids you have. So it's cha-ching, cha-ching when it's a family
Yeah.
fare. Plus,
Yeah.
they eat a lot.
They do.
Yes.
Those little mouths,
Yeah.
and they all
What I
have
was
to have
gonna
their
say,
Coke.
Of
you
course, the
take your
studios don't get that popcorn money, just the theaters get that money. But
yeah, the
I
grandkids
did
always want popcorn and pop and
and candy, exactly.
Yeah.
Daddy, can I have some more candy? I wanted to double click on something that you said earlier about the different producers, just to kind of give people an update on that.
Hmm.
So we've had our main suitor, if you will, producer that we've looked at partnering with on Calculated. And interestingly, in the last couple of months, a variety of other producers that we had reached out to that hadn't really responded started responding. And so we're now looking to set up meetings. They'll be after the new year because, as you said earlier, everything shuts down over the holidays. We'll have a chance to talk to them, show them the project, get their feedback, and then circle back with this other producer we've been working with. Sorry, we haven't mentioned these people's names yet, but we will.
You will.
And that'll really give us, I think, our plan going forward because we're ready to move forward. We just want to make sure that we're partnering with the right team that'll help us accomplish, the best for the project.
Yeah, and the team that has the same vision for the film as us. It doesn't want to completely change the whole story into something else, you know.
Yeah, and I know it feels like it takes forever, but that's the reality of literally every film. I mean, it just everything you think it's like building a house. Um, it's always twice as long, and you know, it just happens at its own pace. And
Yeah.
movies in particular have their own pace. But we're hoping in the new year things start moving faster on Calculated.
Well, I guess that's it for this, guys. Unless Thomas, you got anything else to add? You're always so full of wisdom.
No, yeah, just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and yeah, it's been a good year, and we're really, really excited for the next one.
Yep. And sorry, Jay and Dan weren't with us today. They're still with us. They just not on the call today. So they'll wish you a Merry Christmas as well. And we'll see you guys again in January. And thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Merry Christmas.